Hi everybody, hope you're doing well. Today I am talking about probably the most important topic of my life, which is autism. It's been very, very close to my soul, and this is something for all of you parents of autistic children, I think, could relate to me. Autism has been very, very close because my daughter, when she was young, she had what was called the spectrum. So she wasn't fully blown autistic, but to look at her, you would not even know. She could talk fine, she didn't, she wasn't nonverbal, nothing like that. But when it came for her to learn, her auditory was severely, severely impaired, which fell under the spectrum disorder, okay? Well, it was a learning curve for my husband and I. It really was. And, you know, I started to see things with my daughter when she was 3 years old. She spoke actually very early. Her first words were at 4 and 5 months old. You're going to say, are you kidding? No, I'm not kidding. But my mother always said that I spoke early. So I thought, okay, we didn't really think about it that way. But one day my husband had one of these old radios and it broke. It fell to the ground. And you can't even find these radios today. And it was an accident. It fell and it broke and it splattered. And I could remember my husband saying, well, I'll look at it when I have time. I don't know if I can even fix this, he said. But my daughter, who was only 3, took the radio and when I wasn't looking, just started working on it and she fixed it. Now you're going to say, come on. No, I'm very serious. She fixed it. It was a work of art. My husband says, who fixed this? He knows that I can't do anything mechanical. And I didn't know. And she says, oh, I fixed it. And we like, oh, sure. She says, no, I did. And she brought her little tools, and she had the little tools that she had, that she went into my husband's tool chest, because he has tools for everything, and she fixed it. So my husband sat down with her, and he says, show me how you did it. And she did. Couldn't even explain how she did it, but she did it. She showed him. A couple years later, my microwave went out. And I was thinking, oh, great, now I need a new microwave. And in those years, they were huge boxes of, not the compact ones that we have now. And she says, don't worry, I'll look at it. And she takes the back panel off. And this I will never forget. She rerouted all the wires perfectly. She found the one that was burnt and replaced it, and she could barely be 6 years old. Now, these are things that you say, how can kids do something like this? This is a child in 3rd grade who couldn't even add 2 plus 2, but could do trigonometry. That was easy, but the basics was hard, very hard. I remember we took her to a psychologist. She said, Alex has what's called processing disorder, which means, and she went into the technical, but in layman terms, she said, her wires are crossed. Easy things are very hard for her, and the most complex things are extremely easy for her. Her life will start getting easier when she's at 14. When she's in high school, she'll be going through everything, and she'll get it. And when she's in college, she'll buzz right through it. Well, she graduated high school a year early, and she graduated college a year early. So everything that Dr. Navarro said was completely accurate. I remember when we were in school and she had her IEPs, and teachers would say, well, we're very proud of Alexandria because she can do this and she got a little step here. But they would always make it sound like this was the best she was going to be. Baby steps, but those baby steps, and we need to be proud of those baby steps. And I would just look at them and I would say to myself, I understand you want to encourage, but you're treating her as if she can't do anything. And I remember in grammar school, I said, no, you're right. She can't do this, but she can do this, this, this. Why aren't we focusing on that? I said, one day she will catch up and she will do it. And they go, well, Mrs. Rowlen, that's a good hope to have, and you should never lose hope. My favorite 2 words, among other 2 words, are we'll see. And that's what I would tell the teachers, because I would never take that as, My daughter had a wonderful teacher, and she tutored her. Her name was Mrs. Click, and I love this woman. She's my heart and soul. My daughter could not read, and every time we tried to get this child to read, she just could not comprehend it, and she couldn't. And my daughter loved to spin, and I remember where she was tutored, she had a finished basement, there was a pole, and Alex would love to hang on the pole and just spin and spin. And I remember Mrs. Click saying, Alex, can you sit still so we can do the reading? And she goes, okay, Mrs. Click, but if we stop, so does my brain. She goes, keep going. So I remember one day walking in on them, and Mrs. Click had the book, and she's going around in the circle and keeping up with Alex because Alex could think better. This woman was a teacher that I'd never seen before, because this teacher got my daughter to read. Not just read, but to comprehend. Well, Mrs. Click has been a fixture in our family, and I can't even tell you how blessed we are to have a teacher like this. And now she's retired, and she often talks about Alex, but she has been on Alex's journey since she was 6 years old. Graduations, commencements, birthdays, she's been there. And I can't say enough. My whole family is so grateful to this woman. You know, my grandmother, my father's mother, was a school teacher, and I've always had a lot of respect for teachers. But I remember a woman who was a director, and she said, there are a lot of teachers out there, Susan, but few are born. Well, Mrs. Click was one of them. She not only was a teacher, but this woman had teaching in her soul. So she always understood Alex, and she always watched what Tom and I have done, because any experimental therapy from Germany, Switzerland, whatever we could do, tutoring from the time she was 6 through the time she was in college. There wasn't anything that we could not give her to help her within our means, of course. But whatever we could do, we never went on vacations, and any extra money that we had went to Alex's learning. And she was our number one priority. There were no luxuries in our life. Our luxury is our daughter, and we put everything we could into her. And if I had to do it again, I would do it all over again, seriously. And she went to high school, and she met the second teacher that made such an impact, Mr. Hodge. He saw that my daughter had an eye for photography. And he said, this kid is going to go places. So he wanted her to start taking photography classes. And she came home excited, and she goes, I really want to do this, Mom. I says, okay. So we did. And she was still in the IEP program. And I remember at one of our IEPs, the teacher said that she was typing 250 words a minute. I said, that can't be. She goes, well, it is. Your daughter can type like I've never seen before. I says, that's interesting. You know, there were many things that my daughter could do, and there were many, many things she couldn't do. She could never play piano, but one time all the teachers heard beautiful piano playing coming out of the room, and it was a song from Yanni. And who was playing behind the piano was my 9-year-old child. She couldn't read a note, but she did, and it was all on tone. They tape recorded it, and they had me come because they wanted to discuss something with my daughter. And I thought, oh, geez, now what's going on? And I went, and they played this tape, not telling me it was my daughter. And I said, oh, my God, I said, who's playing this? I said, this is beautiful. Matter of fact, I says, my daughter and I listened to the Yanni CD every morning before going to school because she loved it so much. They said, this is your daughter playing it. I says, impossible. We don't even own a piano. How does she know how to play the piano? I was not proud. I was angry. And you're going to say, what? I felt I didn't know my child. With all the psychologists and all the wonderful teachers out there that had a hand at my daughter, I still felt that I didn't understand my daughter. And I know autism is such a large field. And for many of you parents, it can be a very, very frustrating way because it's hard to understand an autistic mind and what goes into that brain. Well, Travis, my producer, he comes up with so many great things, and he texted me and he said, I'm texting you this link and I want you to listen to it. It's about a doctor, Dr. Diane Powell, and she was doing a study on autistic and nonverbal kids that are telepathic savants. Well, that got my attention instantaneously. And I listened to it, and we will enclose this link to this video. For every parent that would love to listen to it, I say please do. For all the low-functioning autistic children and the names that they get, that they will never be anything more than what they are. Well, let me tell you something. You're all wrong on that. Because what Dr. Diane Powell has really started to look at is how intuitive these children are. But they can read people's minds. They know what you have in the back of you. If you're writing something down on a piece of paper, they know without looking, without hearing, without seeing. And yet, no one can explain this beautiful gift. How is it that they can do this? Well, just like I explained, how can a 3-year-old fix an old radio? Or when she was 6, fix the panel of a microwave, or play the Yanni, piece on a piano, which we've never owned a piano. Well, this is what Diane Powell is talking about. And it got me thinking, to how special these children are. And when I say special, I don't mean it in a disability way of a pronoun. I mean special to the God-given gifts that they have. There are things that these autistic children can do with no explanation, but yet they know. And the power of intuition is huge. Anybody that my daughter would meet, she would just know. She would be building her blocks or things that would always be in rows. She would have her videos. Everything would have to be in a row, and it was perfect. And you autistic parents will understand that. And she would never have eye contact because when she was young, it was very hard for her to look at you in the face. So when she would talk, she would just be playing with her blocks and just looking. And she'd say, I really don't like him, Mommy. And I go, why? He's not nice. He pretends to be, but he's not nice, Mommy. And sure enough, she was right. So I started to take what she was saying about people a little bit more serious. And every person that she came across, she was spot on. She could put somebody like me to shame as a psychic medium. You're going to say, seriously? Oh, yeah. No doubt the power that this child has in understanding. So time went on, and there was a murder or a missing person. I want to take that back. It was a missing person, and I had to take my daughter to the doctor. And my daughter said to me that she had a dream of 2 women that were murdered by their husbands. And they were in an attic, and they were sitting down with her, and they were telling her all about what happened and where they were. And she was telling me this because she now knew what I was doing. She knew that I was finding missing people and all of that. She's 15 years old. And I says, well, maybe they'll come to you again and they'll tell you more. Maybe, she said. But she says, these women are gone. They're dead, and they're looking for them. But, Mommy, you've got to tell somebody that they're dead, she said. Well, she got sick a couple days later, and I took her to the doctor. And we're sitting, waiting. And this man came in and said, can I post these up? And these were one of the missing women. And, of course, the receptionist says, absolutely. So as he's hanging this on the door, my daughter gets up. She looks at it. She says, Mom, this is one of the women that were in my dream. And she's screaming this loud. And everybody now in the waiting room is looking at her. And I got up and I said, this is one of the women you dreamt about? And she goes, Mom, she's dead. They're not going to find her. And I remember everybody just looking at my daughter. And I said, okay, Alex. I go, okay. And she goes, no, Mom, you've got to tell the police. They'll listen to you because you work with them, she said. Anyway, doctor called us in and we went. And we get back in the car, we're going home, and she goes, Mom, it's sad. They're all looking for her. They're not going to catch her. They're not going to find her. They're not going to do anything because she's dead. So I remember calling one of the police and talking to the police. And sure enough, okay, well, we know the ending of the story. So another case I was working on, and I was pretty stumped. And this time I said, Alex, I just don't know what to do with this case. I'm so strung out with 4 other cases I was working on at the time. It was a lot, and doing this full time. And she goes, she's alive. And I go, she is? And she goes, she's not dead. She goes, put your time and effort into this one. You could still find her. And she just walked in like she was having a drink of water. Didn't look at anything. Nothing. Didn't even ask. So I knew that my daughter was spot on based on her history. So I said to my husband, I have to map this girl. She's alive. So we're going to find her. Well, sure enough, I did. All right. And it was a great, happy story. It's in one of my old clips, that you can see on YouTube. But long story short, when they found her, after I mapped her, I said, Alex, they found her. She goes, told you. And she goes, and she wasn't far from where they found her. And she was right again. So looking at these kids that have some sort of autism, but in Dr. Diane Powell's case, she studies the autistic nonverbal with an IQ of 37 or 40 or whatever it is. It's a wonderful finding that she's doing, and I think what she's doing is a blessing beyond words. She's coming to educate what autistic kids are really all about, but what they can do. And maybe they can't do 2 + 2, but the things that they can do is extraordinary beyond words that normal people could never do in 10 lifetimes. So I do want to say that they truly are God's earth angels, and I believe that in my core. There isn't anything that I won't do for a parent whose child has autism spectrum disorder, ADD, dyslexia, ADHD, OCD, all of that, because they're all neuro impairments of the mind, and they are all related, and they are somewhat connected. The 2 things I want to say for any teacher that's listening, truly take time and see what they can do. Because if you're one of the luckier teachers that can see beyond all the things that they can't, that's what will make you extraordinary. You can be the next Mrs. Click or Mr. Hodge. Oh, by the way, my daughter did become a photographer. Not just a photographer, a fashion photographer. Her work has been countless in Vogue and 37 to 40 other publications. And now she's also working for the biggest gun manufacturers with all their beautiful stuff that they've got, and just photographing so much with the veterans and what have you. The talent that this child has had, and so many people would say, well, let's just hope she can do this, but just have faith and it's good. And I would say, we'll see. Never say never. For the ones that cannot speak, that doesn't mean that they can't do, because there's plenty that they can do, even for the children that cannot speak and are nonverbal. I believe this to my core. I really do. I think when you look at them on the outside, you may not see much, but if you take the time to really listen and watch, they're going to educate you. And the next time when a child doesn't like something, be right on top of it. I am very, very happy that I always listened to my daughter, because it was very, very important. When you can see a talent in someone, exercise it to the fullest. Like Mr. Hodge with my daughter Alex in high school. I love teachers, but don't be just a teacher. Be one of those that are born, as that one lady had said to me. It's important to understand, but these autistic children are more than just empaths. They can feel other people's emotions. beyond words. And they really, really are very, very extra special to the talents that they have beyond words. So for all the parents that are listening, I know you'll agree with me. I know you're listening, but maybe it's just something you needed to hear, because we all have talent and we all have different ways of showing that talent. But the ones that are autistic, they may just have the deepest talent yet. So I will have Travis enclose the link of Dr. Diane Powell. I do encourage you to watch it because it is stimulating and beautiful all at the same time. And for all you parents of autistic children, you were chosen, just like I was. We were chosen to learn and to be aware. And I thank God every day for my beautiful child and for your beautiful children. Until then, subscribe to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Love to you all, and love them and squeeze them even tighter. Bye-bye.